Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show, where we celebrate every single day the amazing people who are working in the trenches to make this place, Mississippi, such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, we got a great show today. We're going to be going to Dr. Moby Solangi here in just a second. It's going to be a special show. We're going to get an update on what's going on in his world. But I want to share with you, I have a cousin, my cousin in Alabama. I got a lot of cousins in Alabama because that's where my family is from. And one of her daughters, her name is April Bowling Evans. And I love April. She's amazing. She's got a bunch of kids and a great husband. And it's fun to stay in touch with her. But she's also sassy. She's a sassy thing. And so when she posted this on social media, I could hear her saying this. But it also it's kind of interesting. And it speaks to how we should all be hopeful and set our sights high and, always, look for the support from God, but we've got a role in that. But here's what she said. She said, "Don't ever tell God what you will never do. He will have you nevering like you never, ever nevered before." I just think that's great. Don't ever tell God what you'll never do, because he'll have you nevering like you never, ever nevered before. So it's to say we all got a role in our success, and we should thank God for that. So anyway, I thought that was a good one. Okay, so look, let's move over to my friend Moby Solangi, and we were visiting before the show that we go back a long way, but he wears three hats. You know this from if you've heard our conversations before. He's the president of the Marine Mammal Institute. He has the incredible Ocean Adventures, which we all know as so important here as a top attraction in Mississippi. And then he's deeply engaged in the Save the Sound effort, the Mississippi Coalition or Mississippi Sound Coalition effort. We're going to get an update on all these as we go forward. But before the show started, we were kind of reliving some moments that go back over 40 years. It's kind of dated me a little bit, but welcome back to the show, Moby.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's great to look at the memories of so many years and so much that we both have been able to accomplish, especially you.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's interesting. It's really interesting. You think about it, we were chatting about the networks that we've developed over so many years between each other. We've gone through so many iterations in our lives together. I've always been super active in the community, that. And so our paths have just crossed it so many different ways. And when I retired in 2016, I never thought that we'd have an opportunity to reconnect, but it's amazing that now, we're going over 4 years now doing this show, Moby, 4 years. I gave him 6 months. I said, I'll try it for 6 months. But what I said, and I mentioned this to you, I forgot how much I enjoyed connecting with the community. So that part of this show, I come in here to this room in my house. They've set up a little studio here for me. I do my show. I get to connect with people like you and relive old memories and make new memories, because there's a lot of great stuff that's happening. And to me, that's a gift. And as long as I'm healthy and have the support of my wife, Ann, in doing this, I'm going to continue to do it. So I feel fortunate that I have the opportunity to reconnect with people like you. It's been a real blessing for me.
Well, I think you are the glue that keeps it all together. We all do our thing, but you kind of, through what you call reconnect or connect, is getting it put into a perspective. And so we really enjoy talking to you and reminiscing and looking forward to things.
Ann said to me the other day, I was on the phone a lot, and I would say it's episodic. In other words, something will occur and then the phone will ring a lot, and then it will be kind of, it will settle down for a while, But I get up really early in the morning. So at 3:30, 4 o'clock is very not unusual for me to be up that time. When I was working, that's when I got up, because I could process a ton of information before I actually went into the office. And that way I wasn't doing that when I got to the office. I could then put fires out, walk around, meet with employees, and do the kind of things I needed to do. But I'm still, even in retirement, I'm kind of in that mode. I love my mornings, Moby. I love my morning. I'm going to tell you something I saw this morning in just a second. It's going to blow your mind, or it won't blow your mind. But it's an interesting thing that I saw in nature as I was on a phone call looking out. But Ann said to me, she said, it's starting to kind of look like you're back in your old work again. And she was raising the point of, I'm not sure I like that. I'm not sure you should like that you're on the phone so much. And I said, because I'm doing this in retirement. I still refer to myself as being retired, even though I do the show. And it does kind of feel like that sometimes, but it's in a good way, because the conversations that I'm having are, I consider myself a leader first, Moby. That's the way I'll see myself. A leader in the community who happens to have a radio show, as opposed to a guy who's got a radio show. It's just the way I see it. So people will call and say, I've got this issue or that issue. Who should I talk to? Or, they want me to make these connections. I'm fine to be in that role, and I'll continue to be in that role as long as I feel good and healthy, and I don't see my age. I'm 66 now, but I don't feel that old. As long as I have that point of view, I'm going to continue to do what I do, which is try to contribute back to the community. That's the way I look at it.
Well, that's wonderful. I think that you have that space and the time and the energy, which is great.
Yeah. So look,
I'm much older than you are, and
I was about to say, man, if we go back and relive some of those memories. If I'm 66, I don't know what that makes you, but I'm not trying. You're a guy who's maintained his youthful look. That is for sure. But you've grown this. The work of the Marine Mammal Institute is incredibly important to our entire country, and our country has invested in this facility. And it really comes to bear after major disasters, or after something like the Bonnie Carey Spillway opening, and what we're learning, and why it's important us to learn from marine mammals, as you referred to porpoises as being the canary in the landmine. Your work is so important. And then the outgrowth of your efforts, because of your experience in marine life, to open Ocean Adventures, and some of the stuff that I've seen on Ocean Adventures, even more recently, these packed houses, you continue to do well in those areas. We're gonna start with the Mississippi Sound Coalition, if you don't mind, because I think that's top of mind for a lot of people. But before we go any further, I want to tell you what I saw this morning, because I want to mention that to you. I'm on the phone with a leader, a conservation leader in the state, who's just incredible, and we're on the phone and we're just talking about some things. And I look out over the Mississippi Sound, because I was in our guest bedroom looking out over the Mississippi Sound. And what I noticed was 2 Canadian geese. Okay. Now look, there's usually 3 Canadian geese, and every year they appear. It's the same. I don't know if it's the same ones, but we get 2 about this time every year. And so, but this year it's 3. And I noticed that one of them appeared to be flopping in the water. And I'm saying, what is that? It's interesting. Just the wings were flopping in the water, and I'm like, I'm on the phone with this friend of mine, and I say, gosh, something unusual is happening. Is that some kind of mating behavior, or are they hung up on something? I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. So I said, tell you what, let me go. I'm going to go grab my binoculars, and I'm going to go out on the pool deck and try to understand what's going on. Then I realized it's not. The third thing that I saw was not a Canadian goose. It was a bald eagle. Now I'm thinking the bald eagle has gone in, this north wind, so the water's really low. The flats are almost exposed. I'm thinking it went in and it got hung up on something like a crab trap or some fishing line or something. But I mean, it's flailing away, Moby. It was very dramatic. I'll post it for people if they want to see it. I actually posted it at my personal Facebook page, but the public doesn't have access to all that. So I'll put that video up at the Ricky Matthews Facebook page, the Ricky Matthews Show Facebook page. But I got the binoculars, started looking, and he's actually moving. He's getting closer and closer to a little island that was exposed. And I'm saying, well, whatever he's hung up on, he's actually moving it. And then it hit me. There are only 2 Canadian geese. There used to be 3. This guy has gone in and attacked one of those Canadian geese, and he was holding it underwater. And when you look at the video, you can clearly see it's flailing, And then he slowly, but man, this huge bald eagle, man, the wingspan, I don't know what the wingspan is on it, but he eventually moves over to dry land. And next thing you see is you see feathers flying. He's picking the feathers, and feathers are flying everywhere. And he just stayed on that little bank over there and ate that Canadian goose. That's what I saw this morning. And I'll put it, the cycle of life, man. My wife, who loved these, she loves to look out every morning from where she reads her morning news and just watch these 3 Canadian geese. And she just said, "Oh, that's so cruel." That's just the way it works, though, isn't it, Moby?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
So it was an interesting story, definitely, for sure. Hey, so the Mississippi Sound Coalition, you've made really, really good progress. It's amazing that, so many of the evaluation processes about how to deal with the potential flooding of New Orleans, and how certain approaches are used to relieve the pressure on the flooding that could happen in the Mississippi Sound before was very much based on opening up the Bonnie Carey Spillway and the heck with the Mississippi Sound. You guys have actually made tremendous progress uncovering possibilities. When we get back on the other side, we're going to talk about that, and we'll remind people what this coalition is all about. When we come back on the other side, we'll start fresh with a really deep conversation about the latest on the efforts to protect the Mississippi Sound with Dr. Moby Solangi. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio. I have my friend Dr. Moby Solangi. As I mentioned, he wears a bunch of different hats, but as this part of the conversation, as the president of the Institute for Marine Mammal Studies, and of course, he's actually the chair of the Science Advisory Committee for the Mississippi Sound Coalition. We have known for a long time the Mississippi Sound is this semi-enclosed body of water. It's pristine in so many different ways, one of the largest population of porpoises in the United States, if not the largest. We know about the seafood industry. We know about the great fishing. We know all about this special place. It's been threatened. It's been threatened by hurricanes. It's been threatened by the BP oil spill, and it's certainly been threatened by the opening of the Bonnie Carey Spillway. We've always known that was an issue as this fresh and polluted water rushes from the Mississippi River through Lake Pontchartrain into Lake Borgne into the Mississippi Sound. We've always known that was a big issue. But a few years ago, we opened it up twice in 1 year. It was devastating to the Mississippi Sound. And as a result of that and the studies that have come since then, Dr. Moby Solangi, with a group of others, have really helped bring tremendous focus on we have got to pay more attention to the Mississippi Sound. We've got to look at what are the decision matrix that are used by the Corps of Engineers to decide that. What they discovered, in fact, was that they didn't have to look at the impact on the Mississippi Sound. They could just open it and not think about that. So they've had wins in court. They have discovered other possibilities. It's an amazing effort that a lot of people said when they got started, you don't win when you fight the Corps of Engineers, and they're proving that when you get into the trenches and have the right thing in mind, that you can bring a coalition of people together to make a difference. So that's my sort of summary of what they're doing. Maybe when you talk about it, just from the point of view of an elevator speech, when you're trying to explain to somebody why this is an important effort, how do you just summarize it?
Well, I think you summarized it really well. The Mississippi Sound and adjacent waters is a very productive marine system. Not only the reason you have a largest population of dolphins is not incidental. It has oysters, it has shrimp, it supplies seafood. Oysters were probably the biggest export of Mississippi at one time. And so when the ecosystem collapses, everything goes. That's what's happened to the dead zones. The mouth of the Mississippi River, about 8 to 10,000 square miles is dead. That means nothing can live and survive in it. And the way things are going, and if they're not stopped, Mississippi Sound will be a dead zone. And the problem we have with the Corps of Engineers is they're using the rules and regulations of 1927 or 1930. Now, how many of us drive a 1927 or 1930 car? Things have changed. And if you don't change, if you're driving an I-10 and there is an accident or there is some break in the road, you make an adjustment. Well, they're not willing to do that. And we understand that they have to protect property and lives and all that. That's great. But they also have a mandate to look at other options, and that's what they're not doing. And I think the 2019 opening of the Bonnie Carey and the devastation that happened in Mississippi Sound was a watershed moment. They had convinced the public that, very simple, the Mississippi River brings sediment. We will open them up, and instead of dredging and making it wider and deeper so that more water can flow, we'll put levees, and then we'll open up these little holes called spillways or diversions, and the sediment will create land, because we're losing land because of subsidence, because of seawater rise and all that. Well, they didn't really consider that the livelihood, that the food security of the United States and the world is going to be important in 10 years, and they're going to just wipe out. When you wipe out the dolphins, which are the top of the food chain, that means that everything under it, supporting it, is gone. And so the Institute, which really specializes for the last 40 years on marine mammals, sea turtles, and using them as indicators, brought to bear, I believe, the facts that are now being used to counter and make sure that these questions are answered. And this is a very important subject, and it is an existential threat to the state of Mississippi and its resources.
Yeah, what's interesting too, and it's not just about Mississippi, and you know that the coalition is obviously focused from a Mississippi perspective, but think about anything that comes, once let's say the Bonnet Carré opens up, and you think about the Lake Pontchartrain and the economic benefits of Lake Pontchartrain and Lake Bourne and those areas. So it affects all of the commercial fisheries. It affects the tourism. It affects lots of things as it relates to the eastern portions of Louisiana. Let's take a step back for a second. And for people who have heard of Bonnet Carré Spillway, they've heard of Maganza Spillway before, and more recently, they may have even heard of Breton Sound Diversion Program. And all this seems nebulous. What does all that mean? Let's take a step back and let's pretend that we're looking at a Google Earth photograph of Mississippi and Louisiana. And you remember this, Louisiana comes on out into the Gulf of Mexico, and the Mississippi River runs down through New Orleans and then on down and eventually opens up into the Gulf of Mexico. What you have is this series, as Moby pointed out, these series of levees and other protected devices that have been put in place to essentially save not just New Orleans, but other inhabited areas. And New Orleans is in a bowl. We all know the story well now. The story of Katrina certainly Katrina hit there, but the north winds that beat up the levees to the north on the Lake Pontchartrain area, that's where most of the problems came. But again, New Orleans is protected by these levees. North of there, then you have, if you're taking your car and you go through New Orleans and head to Baton Rouge, you'll actually drive over the spillway. You probably didn't realize you were driving over, but you're driving over the Bonnet Carré Spillway, which that in and of itself, incidentally, is an old structure, and the way they open it is old, and it's if it were ever to break, that would be a whole nother ball game, and we would have some big issues. Okay, go further north to Baton Rouge. There's a big turn in the Mississippi River, which is essentially where there are a lot of big turns, incidentally, but there's a big turn further north from the Bonnet Carré that's called the Maganza Spillway. Some people are really concerned about that particular spillway, incidentally, because they're worried that it could fail, and if it failed, what's happening there. Let's specifically talk about this geography for a second, Moby. But if it were to fail, what's happening? The Mississippi River is wanting to redirect itself, and if it were to ever fail there's a chance the Mississippi River could literally redirect itself, isn't it?
That's correct. I mean, the actual flow and the reason the delta was created, it is through the Atchafalaya Basin. And what we have today, and I think it's an important economic topic that needs to be discussed, the way the Mississippi River is now divided and put together is for commerce. If we didn't have the traffic from the 31 states, the United States would not be competitive in the market. And so what they have done is they have artificially created that 30% of the water goes through the Atchafalaya Basin, and then 70% of it comes through the river, which is now has been raised by levees instead of dredging it, making it deeper, which, over time, this has become, if you consider the river coming from Missouri, which becomes one, it's the drain of a bathtub. The rest of the watershed is a bathtub. And if your drain is clogged, the first thing we should do is unclog it. But instead of unclogging it, we put the levees to make it higher. And then when that isn't sufficient, we drill holes in the sides of it to reduce the pressure. So it's a really a weird system. Man creates one problem and then does two things to exacerbate it. And the Morganza was there to say, okay, we will redirect 30% of the water. But that hasn't been opened in 50 years because it would fail. And if it did fail, another problem is that the areas that were flood prone, people in Louisiana have developed them now. And that's why they're not wanting to open Morganza, because the ones that they said, okay, we'll protect the land and people, but they've taken the floodplains and put in all sorts of economic development. So there's no incentive. But if it fails, there'll be a tremendous economic loss. That's where the river was flowing. But we have to flow it to where it is going through Baton Rouge and New Orleans for economic purposes. And then, there are alternatives, but this was the easy way. Instead of dredging, which costs money, we just direct. But people don't understand that the Mississippi River is not the same river it was 100 or 200 years ago. It does not have the same amount of sediment. It also brings industrial pollution, sewage, fertilizers, insecticides, pesticides. And so when you redirect it, now, most people don't understand, I think your viewers may not understand, that Mississippi River is not connected to Mississippi.
Yeah, it's not. And so let's do this. When we get back on the other side, we'll talk about what you're learning actually about these other alternatives, because it's complex and there are alternatives, and we've got to be, and we're having conversations at least now about this. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Moby Solangi. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. We're meeting with my friend Dr. Moby Solangi, and we'll finish this part of the conversation about the Mississippi Sound Coalition effort, which is really important, and we want to keep it on the front burner for people to understand. It's not a conversation we can turn our heads away from. And then we'll get the latest at what's happening in the other parts of Moby Solangi's world. Okay, so look, so what we've done is paint this picture, this map, showing Baton Rouge and the Morganza, and then you come on around, and just north of New Orleans, you've got the Bonnet Carré Spillway. As you go further down, though, if you look at a map, you'll see the Breton Sound. And there are other diversion projects that are part of this master plan, and one in particular, which it's part of the conversation, but it's not part of the conversation as it relates to the flood control issues. What this diversion project is about, the Breton Sound Diversion Project, is literally about rebuilding land, but it will also have a significant impact. So you can't not have the conversation about that impact, because it's the same outcome, and that is you're taking that polluted fresh water and the sediment that's in it, and you're using that to rebuild land in Louisiana that's being lost at an amazing pace. So no easy conversations. We're not having that part of the conversation right now. We're really focused in this conversation on the various diversions. So what ends up happening, Moby, is that because of their concerns about the Morganza and the worry that it would fail, the only option that they usually have only considered, I just should say it straight up, they've only considered is the opening of the Bonnet Carré Spillway. Okay. One other point I want to make about the Morganza, this thing about it potentially failing, we're talking about a failure that could reroute the Mississippi River. This is like a very serious conversation. We're not just talking about affecting commerce in the United States. It would literally have an impact on the global economy. It is that significant. It's really significant. So there's a lot at stake in these conversations. What they have discovered, though, is that we tend to think of it as either the Morganza or the Bonnet Carré Spillway or both as sort of these flood control devices. But what they've discovered in their focus on this. This is the Mississippi Sound Coalition and their suit against the Corps of Engineers, is that they actually have other options. There are other options. Talk about that, Moby.
Well, there are several different options, and I think the Lieutenant Governor of Louisiana, Billy Nungesser, has really been a spokesperson for those options. I think the number one thing is, dredging and making it deeper. It's over the last 100 years, the silt and mud have made it shallower. And then, of course, you've got there are other diversions that can be made that go into the Atchafalaya Basin or go into other lakes and, reduce the pressures. And so
that are further north. So there are other diversion possibilities that are further north.
That's correct. And even north of Baton Rouge. And so those are lots of things. And Mississippi has been used as a dump. Let's put it this way. Nobody really spoke about it. The first few people that spoke about it was us. The Institute started showing through the deaths of dolphins since 2011, when they had the biggest disaster of the opening of the Bonnie Carey. And they blamed it all, it's the oil spill, residue and all that. But we have actually categorically shown that what they are doing without consulting, we don't have a seat on the table. Without looking at our resources, it is affecting our not only resources, but our way of life and people's economic welfare. And so they have willy-nilly, and the other thing they don't realize, that when you kill the Mississippi Sound is the nursery. In their colloquial, it is essential fish habitat, so that people don't understand. When you kill the goose that lays the golden egg, and then they say, well, you can go further out and find the golden egg, that's an oxymoron. And so we are killing the nursery. Mississippi Sound is connected to Britain Sound and Chandelier Sound. Animals don't recognize these artificial state boundaries. Every day you see animals that are born in the Mississippi Sound are growing in Chandelier or Britain and vice versa. And so these other options of whether diverting the water, now they're saying that this diversion will create 25 acres of land in 50 years. You and I are not going to be here in 50 years. Many of the people who are talking about won't be here in 50 years. And the land loss is considerably more than 25 acres. And so I think what we have done, what the Mississippi Sound Coalition has done, has really raised. I went to the White House in 2019. I made a presentation about the Bonnie Carey spillway. And one of the people, and I won't name any names, sitting in their room, and they said, this is a $1 trillion problem. 31 states and 2 provinces in Canada are affecting Louisiana and Mississippi, and they are benefiting from it. And one of the things I said, that if all these states said we have nuclear waste and Mississippi has a lot of free land, maybe we should put it there. What do you think the Mississippi folks would do? We have no say-so. And I think this is going to be our legislators in Washington are very active now. Senator Wicker, Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, they are now really focused on this. It's going to be a political thing, and Louisiana should know that we are friends with them. We are both affected. We should work together and find other options. And I think we can create land, according to Billy Nungesser, within 5 years, what this would do in 50 years. And Ricky, we can't even predict where a hurricane will hit a month before it comes to think. How can we predict something 50 years from now?
Right.
And these are models that are only as good as what you put in.
Look, Gerald Blessey, Robert Weigel, really, really strong environmental lawyer. You mentioned the legislative delegation, the number of cities and counties and partners. You guys actually did a presentation a little over a month ago for the Gulf Coast Business Council. It was extraordinarily well received. Your ability to create a true coalition, a private and government sectors involved, lots of people focused on it. You're doing a great job of communicating. We will continue to talk about it on this show, but these are not easy issues to talk about. The Corps of Engineers is as a rule of thumb, kind of stubborn. So it took some court to get their attention. I think that we're moving in the right direction. And listen, failure is not an option. The reality is Mississippi Sound cannot be a sacrificial lamb. What they've done it to this point without any voice whatsoever is say we're going to save New Orleans, and the way we're going to save New Orleans is at the expense of the coast economy, and we can't do that. We just can't.
And I think one of the important people on the coast is our Congressman Ezell. He oversees the Corps of Engineers committees and all that, and he has really been very vocal. I'm very impressed with what he does, including Senator Smith and Senator Wicker. These three people are really going to make a difference for our state. And of course, if you look at our governor and our lieutenant governor, they are very much very helpful in making sure that these issues are not in the front, because this is an existential threat.
Well, you mentioned that Louisiana and Mississippi, but Alabama was also impacted by the algae bloom and the water as it rushed toward the Dauphin Island area. So it's a very significant problem. Congratulations to you guys for keeping the focus on it. The marine mammal studies, you guys continue to do amazing work. I think about, for example, the turtle tracking effort that you have underway right now. That's fascinating what you're learning there, isn't it?
It is. I mean, one of the things I spoke with the Corps of Engineers, we had our Attorney General who had invited me to talk to the generals of the Corps of Engineers. And we said, well, we monitor temperature, salinity, everything is fine. That's very one-dimensional. I said, why don't we ask the animals? Why aren't they there? And so by tracking them, we have some new technologies. We put these trackers on, especially now on sea turtles, and they can tell you where they're going, why they're avoiding it. We have data on all the biological and ecological factors, and why are they avoiding those areas, or why they're preferring. An animal needs three things. The number one thing, it needs food. Number two, it needs an environment to sustain itself. And number three, it needs mates to perpetuate. When all three are gone, it's extinct.
Yeah.
And so the camps really almost became extinct. And we have participated in bringing it back through rehabilitation. We have done it. And by using them as a model in real time, it's like E.T. telling us a story. I'm going home, and I'm telling you what's in the way of my going home.
Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll actually show the YouTube and Facebook and SuperTalk TV audience a map showing a tracked turtle, which I find interesting. We can talk about that. And then we'll shift gears and move over to your efforts, your tourism efforts, which is very significant, and continue to have great success there. When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Dr. Moby Solangi. We'll see you after this. Every time I pass by Ocean Adventures and the Marine Mammal Institute on Seaway Road, when I would go by in my boat, I look up at this thing that Moby and his team has built, and it's very significant, man. They have the ability to do you can do an entire autopsy on a whale if you needed to, but you guys have done. You've got a great partnership with Mississippi State. This collaboration that's happening between y'all is incredible. You're talking about building dormitories. I mean, this thing is continuing to grow, isn't it?
It really is, and we're very thankful to all our partners that have helped us. We have had very good success with U.S. Congress after Katrina. They helped us, give us this wasteland that we have developed, which was all that dugout material. We've had our legislature at the state level, with our governors, lieutenant governor, and of course the agencies, DMR, DEQ, NOAA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. All these partners have seen the importance of what is needed, and it is a very critical habitat, and that is something that had been neglected, but it is something that is very valuable to the state.
Yeah, you referred to it as a wasteland, but here's the interesting thing. That land was over there. You got it, and now it looks like it was supposed to always be there. That's the way I would refer to it, actually. And right there on the seaway, this marvel of industrial development. I mean, who had that vision so many years ago to build the industrial seaway was amazing. But anyway, you've got this Marine Mammal Institute that's coexisting with now your incredible ocean adventures. I mean, it's just the vision's kind of come together, hasn't it?
It really is. I mean, we put everything together. It used to be 50 years ago, it was public display, the shows and all that. If it's research, a university did that. And if it was animals on the beach, strandings, mom and pop called the government. We've got education, conservation, research, rehabilitation, and public display all under one roof. And I think this is a very unique concept. Senator Cochran and Lott had said, let's think outside the box. Let's put Mississippi on the map. And I think IMMS, the Institute for Marine Mammal Studies, is probably one of the most unique and state-of-the-art facilities in the northern Gulf of Mexico. I know Senator Lott said, we want something better than Texas and Florida. And I think we have come true to that. And so more and more we'll see that. And I think one of the things with Ocean Adventures, stewardship is extremely important. At our age, there's very little you can teach me. But the younger people, we have found out that 30% of the marine issues of marine pollution can be solved by changing our habits, by dumping stuff, the marine debris that's out there, microplastics, anything that we can teach our young kids to recycle, reuse, and not pollute is an important. So even in our presentations, we do that. We also have a very unique facility. It's interactive. If you and I, as we were growing up, the zoos, you saw animals in cages. Then they were in habitats. Well, now people want to be in the habitat, so you can go and swim with the dolphins. We have a place you can go snorkel with the stingrays and sharks. We have the birds coming to you. Of course, we have presentations. We have, birthday parties, summer camps. It has gone beyond my imagination. We created it for a certain level. We have been up. We are actually just 2 weeks ago, we had 8 or 10 buses from Baton Rouge with 400 or 500 kids. We had a school from Olive Branch. I didn't even know there was a city called Olive Branch or something. And 400 students came to release a turtle. They've never seen the Mississippi Sound. And so it's just been an incredible success story. Yeah. And I think by teaching people about the importance of nature, why we are connecting, we don't realize that 2/3 of our Earth supports the 1/3. And if we treat the marine environment as a dump, our existence is in danger.
So, Kyle, you can show a couple of the attendance photos that you have showing all the people in the photos and sort of enjoying the facility. So it's great because you're hitting on a lot of cylinders. You got this great conservation message that you're teaching kids. And listen, I know as a young child, I remember when I went to marine life, and it touched me so significantly. For the YouTube and Facebook and SuperTalk TV audience, what you see is sort of a panning view video of just a lot of kids who are engaged in the Institute, which is incredible. You've got that education. Then you've got the basic tourism piece of this. I mean, families want to go and participate and be involved in the interactivity of that.
Well, let me tell you, Ricky, COVID was the best thing that happened to us. And, we were all scared. This was going to be a bad situation for us. But what happened? People didn't travel. They didn't go to Orlando, didn't go far enough. They stayed home. And they came to us. We had difficulty. We today have difficulty accommodating the number of people that show up here. I mean, I never expected this kind of success. We said, okay, well, this is something we need to do. But I think it is the offerings that have made the difference.
It has, and you do it at a really, really a good price that actually makes it affordable for families, and that's always been really highly important to you. But we'll actually post a picture at the Ricky Matthews Facebook page of the turtle tracking, which we didn't get a chance to show. But it's been a great opportunity for you and me to catch up, and thank you for all your efforts.
Well, they can go to imms.org and see all the tracking of all the turtles we do.
Yeah.
We have Ocean Adventures. You can see all the different programs, but I love to make sure that people enjoy what they see.
Yeah, we'll continue the conversation for sure. Listen, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.